Dear viewers and listeners, you are watching and listening to teleradio company Georgian's program, Real Politics. I am Valkas Gulashvili, and today, as is customary for a Friday broadcast, I am joined by Goga Kaindrava to provide you with a comprehensive overview, analysis, and forward-looking assessment of the key developments unfolding both internationally and within Georgia. Let me begin with our first topic. On April 27th, the Polish Ministry of Foreign Affairs released a statement on social media announcing that Poland's public broadcaster TVP has established a Georgian-language news service, TV Georgia. According to the announcement, several Georgian journalists will be involved in this initiative. This development appears to be the result of coordinated efforts involving multiple external actors, and it raises important questions regarding intent, strategic communication, and influence. At its core, such an initiative is unlikely to be politically neutral. Rather, it suggests an attempt to shape narratives about Georgia, both within Poland and domestically inside Georgia itself. The broader concern is that this platform may be used to construct particular interpretations of political reality, potentially distorting facts, promoting selective viewpoints, and ultimately influencing political processes within the country. Before asking for your assessment of the purpose behind this initiative, I would like to briefly recall historical precedents. During the Cold War, the United States actively employed information instruments such as Voice of America and Radio Free Europe/Radio Liberty to penetrate the Soviet information space. These broadcasts operated continuously, often under difficult conditions, as the Soviet authorities attempted to jam or block their signals. Nevertheless, despite these efforts, audiences, especially those determined to access alternative perspectives, found ways to listen, demonstrating the enduring power of information flows even under restrictive regimes. However, much has changed since that era. The global information environment has evolved dramatically, and the mechanisms of influence have become far more sophisticated and less transparent. In this context, the emergence of a Georgian language media platform within a foreign public broadcaster deserves critical scrutiny.
One must ask, why Georgia? Why is there no comparable initiative in Azerbaijani, Armenian, Kazakh, or other languages? The selectivity itself suggests a targeted approach. Moreover, the composition of the editorial team, particularly the inclusion of figures associated with controversial past reporting, raises additional concerns about the editorial line and underlying agenda. Indeed, the very first broadcast reportedly targeted the Georgian Orthodox Church. This is highly significant. The church represents not only a religious institution, but also a foundational pillar of Georgian identity, historical continuity, and societal cohesion. The timing and content of such criticism suggest that the initiative is not merely informational, but ideological, aimed at undermining core elements of Georgian social unity. This becomes even more evident when placed in a broader context. Recent public events in Georgia have demonstrated the depth of societal attachment to faith, tradition, and national identity. These are not superficial elements. They constitute the very foundation upon which Georgian society stands. Any external attempt to weaken these foundations can therefore be interpreted as a strategic effort to reshape the country's internal dynamics. At the same time, we observe a paradox in the global system. While many Western societies are experiencing profound political, economic, and cultural crises, often acknowledged by their own leaders, Georgia has demonstrated notable economic resilience, with growth figures reaching approximately 7 to 10% in recent months. This contrast further intensifies external interest in influencing Georgia's trajectory.
Let us now turn to another important issue. The official representative of the Russian Ministry of Foreign Affairs, Maria Zakharova, recently stated that the idea of relocating the Geneva international discussions had been proposed by the Russian side several years ago and supported by representatives of Abkhazia and South Ossetia. According to her, efforts are currently underway to identify an alternative venue, although she emphasized that it would be premature to discuss specific locations publicly due to the confidential nature of the process.
In reality, however, the problem is not the location of the negotiations. Whether they take place in Geneva, Astana, or elsewhere is largely irrelevant. The fundamental issue is the substance, or rather the lack thereof. These discussions have increasingly taken on a performative character, with little tangible progress achieved. The absence of meaningful negotiation reflects a deeper structural reality. The entities represented as independent actors in these talks lack genuine statehood and political coherence. Developments on the ground further reinforce this assessment. Internal dynamics within Abkhazia reveal significant instability, fragmentation, and conflicting attitudes toward Russia. South Ossetia presents an even more limited case, often perceived less as a viable political entity and more as a symbolic construct. In contrast, if one were to seriously consider the question of Ossetian statehood, it would be more logically grounded in North Ossetia Alania within the Russian Federation, where a substantial Ossetian population resides. Looking ahead, it is evident that the international system is undergoing profound transformation. The ongoing war in Ukraine, tensions surrounding Iran, and instability in critical regions such as the Strait of Hormuz are all indicators of a broader reconfiguration of global power structures. These processes are already underway, even if their final outcomes are not yet fully visible. High-level communications between major powers, including reported contacts between Donald Trump and Vladimir Putin, alongside China's expanding role in global affairs and shifting dynamics in Latin America and the Middle East, all point to the emergence of a new international order. The previous system, often characterized as a liberal or Anglo-Saxon-led order, appears to be in decline. The situation surrounding Iran further illustrates these dynamics. Despite significant military pressure and political rhetoric, the outcome has been largely inconclusive. Iran's strategic position remains fundamentally unchanged, and its internal cohesion appears strong. Moreover, attempts to coerce or destabilize such a historically rooted and socially unified nation are unlikely to succeed. This raises broader questions about the effectiveness and legitimacy of contemporary international interventions. Historical precedents, such as the invasion of Iraq under the pretext of weapons of mass destruction, serve as cautionary examples of how flawed intelligence and political agendas can lead to devastating consequences, both for targeted states and for the credibility of the international system as a whole. In conclusion, the current state of global politics reflects a high degree of fragmentation, uncertainty, and systemic transformation. In such an environment, the most rational strategy for any state, particularly a small one like Georgia, is to prioritize internal stability, safeguard sovereignty, and pursue a pragmatic, interest-based foreign policy. Encouragingly, Georgia appears to be following precisely this path. Amid widespread geopolitical turbulence and what can only be described as a form of global political disorientation, the country has managed to preserve its dignity, strengthen its independence, and assert its sovereignty with increasing confidence.